So, my name's Chris Walsh, and we are here at Macworld. I'm getting ready for the big education symposium starting tomorrow, and I'm sitting here with Alan November. Thanks for joining us. This is where you say hello.
I'm happy to join y'all.
No, we're in San Francisco, not Texas.
Great.
How would you say that in San Francisco speak? You got to work in a dude.
Dude? No, it's Valley speak. What do the girls say? Really? No, it's not
Whatever.
Really. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
in a Boston.
Whatever.
So, you've got a session tomorrow. You're going to be talking.
No, it's like really.
For sure.
That's it. For sure.
Like. You know?
Like you know? Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm California.
So like you know. Yeah. Okay. We'll get in our mode here. So tomorrow, you're going to wow everybody with all sorts of ideas on professional learning communities, I'm sure. But why don't we, before we touch base on some of that stuff, just give everybody kind of an update on what you're doing these days and what's on the top of your mind.
Top of my mind, I just saw a picture of a billboard in a developing country for the smart car. You know that little tiny car?
Yeah.
Gets lots of miles?
Yeah.
And there's the cars on the left of the billboard, and the right, they've got 3 lines, text. First line says German engineering. The second line says Swiss innovation. The third line says American nothing. They're actually selling the car based on the concept that the United States didn't touch it.
Exactly.
They figure they're going
to. What? I mean, maybe.
Well, it's called the smart car.
Maybe Detroit should have tried that.
So what I'm up to, that's just an intro. I'm trying to. I don't know how to do this, Chris. Maybe you can help. I'm trying to convince people in education that we need to do honest global benchmarking of what different schools around the world look like. Schools in Finland, schools in China, just around the world. And because I'm now convinced, as are a number of people who work overseas, we've all decided this independently, that American education does not have the capacity to change as a culture and an organizational design that we see overseas. So I do a workshop here, workshop in any number of other countries. 6 months later, no change in the American school. Serious change, what's the next step in the other country?
So let's break this down, because this is a big passion of mine as well, actually. I don't have the international experience, but culture is obviously at the center of all of this. In addition, I would say, is institutional empowerment. And so let's walk through a couple of the differences we see in that. So look at the international schools first. What do they have in their culture and in their institutional makeup, DNA, if you will, that allows them to take action the way we can?
Well, I think it's the same thing this country had 30 years ago and 50 years ago. Their people are poor. They're really poor. And they see the United States as being very wealthy, and they want what we have.
Sure.
And the internet now lets people know all around the world very quickly what they don't have.
Right.
So because they now know what they don't have, and what Americans have who seem to be lazy, they think that if they work hard in school,
they can quickly move up.
They can quickly move up.
So they've got motivation.
So they see education, ironically, because of the internet. I mean, here's the irony, Chris. We invent the internet. And the major impact of the internet is it galvanizes the rest of the world to beat us.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that's one. I can go through.
Yeah,
so the sense of urgency of getting out of poverty. Number 2 is governance. I don't think we have governance right in this country. So overseas, very often, the role of a principal equals the role of a superintendent. They have much more authority. Firing, hiring teachers, setting curriculum, being totally responsible for quality. Where in this country, the hierarchical nature of our public school system doesn't give a leader in a building that much wiggle room.
At the same time, though, most Asian countries have centralized curriculum, though, right? And funding models. So are you saying that, and maybe I've got that wrong, I'm familiar with Korean and some other folks where there's a centralized curriculum standards across the entire country.
Yes.
There's centralized funding so that they can quickly put money behind some of these big ideas.
Yes.
So are you saying that not only is the funding model different, but also the empowerment? Somehow they figured out how to separate those two in some ways?
Yes. So let's say you have a standard curriculum. Now, in fact, I think the United States is the only industrial country
I think it is.
not to have a standard curriculum.
Right.
So we're the only one in the world that doesn't.
Right.
And we're falling behind.
Right.
Maybe that's not the reason. So it's normal to have a national curriculum. And you know, a lot of other countries equal our states.
Right.
I mean, California, where we are, is bigger than most countries.
Right.
So,
whatever.
and California has its own standards that every school has to abide by.
Right.
So it's very similar in that way.
Right.
But what's not happening in California is the role of a principal in having total control of the budget for his or her building.
Right.
We don't have governance right.